Aloha and welcome to Connection to the Cosmos with your host, me, Dr. Lisa Thompson, where I have out of this world conversations with extraordinary people. And today I am so excited to have Hillis Pugh on. You're going to love what he has to share. But first, just a few announcements. First, I have a new free 20-minute meditative journey to meet your galactic family and guides on my website. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you haven't already done that journey, then go to mysticmanta.com or drlisajthompson.com and grab that meditative journey. Second, my new galactic retreat that I am hosting here on the Big Island of Hawaii is September 14th to the 17th. And there are two choices. One is for people that want the whole luxe retreat experience, that want the accommodations, the lodging, all of that. I also have a choice for people that live local on the island that want to go back and forth from their homes. So check that out. That's also on the website. And then if you're coming to Hawaii just on vacation, coming to the Big Island, come see me on one of my Big Island UFO tours, the Night Sky Watch, where we use advanced Gen 3 military night vision goggles to look at the night sky, and I train you how to identify spacecraft. And we see them every single time. Not kidding, every single time. Okay, we're going to bring Hillis on. Hello, Hillis.
Hello. I have to see what my schedule is for September because I just want to come just to experience all of that. I'm like, what?
Yes.
What?
We're going to do a lot of fun things. And so,
I know. It's like you're going to be like my new best friend now.
yes, come see me in Hawaii. Well, let me tell people about you because you are pretty extraordinary. So, Hillis Pugh is an author, teacher, speaker, and holistic practitioner utilizing the gifts and tools to empower others on their journey. The reason why he chooses to do this work is to guide others on their path, to let them know they are not alone. Hillis mentors each soul on their path to lift them up so they can see what he sees beyond the physical realm. Hillis is an energy facilitator working with the modalities such as Psychic Mediumship, Reiki, and Lemurian Light Energy to co-create a deeper connection to the soul. So welcome, Hillis. And, I'm so excited to talk to you. We first came together in the Quantum Miracles Mastery docuseries with Melissa Beasley.
Yes.
And that was a few years ago. And this is our first time actually getting face-to-face conversation.
Oh, how cool is this? Just to share this amazing space,
Yeah, so I would love for you to give us some backstory so that we understand your transition into the work that you do. So my first question, always curiosity question, is how did you grow up? Was it like a spiritual or religious household or something else? Really dysfunctional, highly functional?
I always tell people I have a very interesting background because, it caused a great space of confusion because I went to Catholic school during the week, and on Sundays I would go to a Baptist church.
Okay.
You talk about different, like polarization. You talk about you couldn't be more different.
Right.
But what it taught me was that in this space of differences, is that there is this in between space, this space of growth, this space of questioning, this space of really understanding what is at the center of all of these beliefs that we have. And through the years of me going to Catholic school from kindergarten all the way up to me graduating high school.
Wow.
And then I know I was always the quiet kid you had to watch out for. And then as growing up, going to Baptist church, going to apostolic church, going to Catholic churches, and having this evolution of my belief of what God is or who God is, it really helped me to transition into really moving into where I am now and into this wide acceptance of the spectrum of energy, the spectrum of humanity as we move forward in our collective consciousness.
Okay. So now, one of your gifts is being a psychic medium.
Yes.
And so were you, as a child, were you fully open and your parents understood that, or did that come later in life?
Well, I find this fascinating because throughout periods of my early childhood and especially into my mid to late teens, I've always had premonitions. But growing up in a Black household, this wasn't something that was really discussed that often because there
Okay.
was a strong belief in Christianity. Not saying that I didn't have the flexibility because, being raised by three women, I had this flexibility of really believing what I wanted to believe in and having this enormous room for growth and not really having that discipline, it's like, well, this is what we believe, and just following that, but then also carving out my own path in that. But when I had these premonitions, it's something I kind of kept to myself because I was like, well, I can't tell them this,
Yeah.
because the one of the premonitions that I had that I told my aunt for the very first time, I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I had a premonition of my grandmother dying.
Mm.
And it was really profound for me because it was the first thing that I ever told anyone about my abilities because I want everyone to know that we all have these abilities. It's just how we choose to accept them. And then upon me expressing this to her, it was like, how do I now fall into really accepting this of myself? And then, of course, I think it was maybe about 5 years or 6 years later, after I had the premonition, it came true. I'm like, and I stunned myself because it was exactly how I saw it because it was a deja vu moment. And I'm like, what's
Yeah.
happening right now? What's happening right now? So I totally freaked out because I didn't have anyone around me to really express this to in the way that it was unfolding for me at the time.
Okay. So what, I mean, I guess that puts you into sort of early 20s then when that
Yeah.
happened with your grandma?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, cool. It was so no, that was more like late 20s actually.
Okay, late
Because
20s.
yeah, my when we do this spiritual work, time it means
Yeah,
nothing. We all see it and it all plays out differently.
right. Well, so, okay. And so at that point in your 20s, like, did you go to college? What kind of career were you doing? Like, did you jump right into this energy work or you?
No, no, honestly, so I was set to go to a little arts college on a partial scholarship. And being the family that in my family, it's like, do I really want to go to school on a partial scholarship? Do I want to just live my life? What do I want to do? And so I just ended up working at the time, for Kinko's. And so I was like, working in a copy shop. And then I kind of took that and just was doing that for a while. And so there wasn't really honing of my abilities until my mid 30s. So about from the age of like actually late 20s, so like around 28 till about 32, 33 is when I really started to hone them on my own. And then when I turned 35, 36, I ended up moving to New York and then started studying at a holistic institute where I began to hone my psychic mediumship. And that's where I found out I was clairaudient. And
Okay.
yeah, so which is my strongest of the five clairs. And so it was a journey to really get to that space. And so with people who I meet now who are younger than I applaud them because there's this level and field of openness and acceptance of, oh, you're psychic. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, you do energy work. Oh, okay. So it's like this openness and ready. So it's like, did I help prime the way for this? Did people before me prime the way for this so that way it's more accepted? And so it's just in that space of really one owning who you are and just glowing from that space.
Okay. So how did your family feel about you moving into that? You
My,
have
so
Baptist background.
I know. So my aunt was my best friend at the time. So it's like she was like my closest confidant, and she also had more of a strong religious belief system. So when I told her, she accepted it, but at the same time, I was like, oh, okay, I'll take it with a grain of salt. And so, it wasn't until years later where, I told my mom repeatedly about who I am, what I do about my psychic mediumship, with me utilizing the path of plant medicine and etc. And so one year for my birthday, my mom sent me, when I was living in New York at the time, my mom sent me an oversized book on the history of New York. And it was a card that attached it. And I hope this helps with your gift. And I'm like, I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, thank you for the gift, but it doesn't work this way. You know.
It's funny. Okay, so well, let's talk about, so then as the clairaudient piece comes in then,
Mhm.
so is psychic mediumship one of the things you do for your clients? Like they come to you and they want you to connect them with their past loved ones, or what do you do?
Yeah, it's something that, and it's interesting because as I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and it's the dynamic of this has definitely shifted in the universal consciousness. Where me being a psychic medium was forefront of what I do, aside from my teachings about gratitude and the law of attraction. This became more precedent, but as I moved forward, that it began to take a back seat to the energy work that I do, because as I talked to more and more clients, as I connected with some more with my peers, that this began to be more secondary because everyone else was learning how to tap into their own intuitive abilities on their own, which was like, yes, it's happening. Yes. And so from there, people just started to begin to see me for energy work, which is actually, I love that more now, because the psychic mediumship, because there's a certain level of satisfaction in seeing, transformation with people as I work with them.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So then, was Reiki the next thing that you added to your tool belt, or
It
was
was, it was, it was, so it was real interesting. And so, when I was maybe 22, I had a reading with somebody, and I believe, if my memory serves me correct, it might have been just some total random stranger, because you know how spirit moves, spirit
yeah?
just works. And it's like, okay, this is going to happen. And so at that age, someone told me, it's like, you're going to be a healer. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to be a healer. Well, I mean, if you mean heal as in a writer, yes, because I write poetry. Poetry is my first love. I
Mm,
heal hearts with my poetry. I inspire people. I make, have thought-provoking poetry, all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, poet all the way. And so here I am, 20 plus years later, me, being a Lemurian light worker. And so after I got done with my psychic medium, after I really honed that, after I got that, then it's like, well, what's next? So I went and went to go get my level 1 Reiki,
okay,
Usui Reiki. And I did that, was amazing. I felt the energy and felt the connection. And about maybe 6 months has passed, and I was really in the flow of really feeling it. And I was like, there's something else. And I
hmm
was reading about level 2, what it entails, and I read about level 3, which is the mastery. And I'm like, is there a way for me to jump from 1 to 3? Because I feel like this is where I need to go. There's some way I got to leap over this. And
yeah,
so, oddly enough, there was a peer of mine who had a Facebook post about the Lemurian Light Energy.
okay,
And I'm like, this is what I want. This is for me. And so it took me about 8 months to go through the process of the attunement for the Lemurian light work. So I went from Reiki level 1,
hmm
bypassed and skipped level 2 and level 3 Reiki because that wasn't meant for me.
yeah,
And so I decided to go the path of the Lemurian Light Energy, which is connected to Syrian energy as well. So it's
interesting.
the Syrian Lemurian energy. So that connection, and it really resonated with me, and how it evolved into me being of greater service to a lot of people that I work with now.
Okay, so can you describe to us a little bit of the differences between Reiki and this Lemurian light energy in terms of, from your understanding of how it's working to
Yeah.
help other people?
And so, you know, with Reiki, there's different forms, different levels, and how people practice it. There's a lot of ways in doing that. And from my understanding, by working with my peers and then doing level one myself, there are similarities with Reiki and with the Lemurian Light is that we use symbols, but what I feel in Reiki is a little bit different when you have your Reiki symbols, which are closer to runes.
Okay.
And you have the Lemurian Light energy that I do, which
Hmm.
is connected to the energy of Sirius A, B, and C.
Right.
And so I'm connected to that energy and bring forward symbols. And actually, I don't know if I can show you, but these are some of the symbols that I work with here. And these are mostly light language symbols. So they are spoken in the tongue of light language. And for those who don't know what light language is a vibrational frequency that is spoken to awaken or help in the remembering and create a divine connection to the representation of that light symbol, that energy symbol, to bring the energy forth. And so to me, the Lemurian light energy is on the level of a grandmaster, not just a master of Reiki, but a grandmaster. So with Reiki, you have to go through different steps to get there. But with the Sirius and Lemurian energy, you just get there. So it's more accelerated in how it's produced. And with me personally, you know, I was in the beginning, you know, how people showed me how to utilize the energy of Reiki and how we call forth energy, you know, and having the energy of self
Hmm.
and utilizing that energy and then other spaces and earth energy. But with the Lemurian energy, I can use almost anything from EMF radiation uh, to you name it, and I can utilize and bring that energy in and convert it and transform it for whatever I need.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point. So it has a broader range in use in terms of what Reiki can do.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So I
I
light
know
language.
there are a lot of questions there.
Yeah. Well, and I'm very familiar with light language myself.
Mm.
I
Of course, you're in Hawaii. You're on
I
a big island.
yes, well, and one of my best friends here, she's the first exposure that I ever had to it. She speaks it, and when I felt like when she spoke it, I could feel it through my body in
Hmm.
a way that I haven't ever had any like language, earth language feel in my body. And so then I had my own kind of opening a year and a half ago or so where I'm not as vocal, but I do it through my hands. So it's
Yes.
like a sign language through my hands, and I am working on that vocal piece of it. But it's energy, whether
Yeah.
it's sound or that.
It's interesting because how I do it is, you know, I love it when people sing it because I know people who can sing and it sounds so beautiful, so angelic.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I'm not that vocal with it because I often call myself the human translator or transmitter because I have my show Cosmic Insight where my co-host can sing. She does sound healing and sometimes she sings light language. And it just happened so randomly that we were live one night and she did the sound. I'm like, wait, I can understand this.
Mm.
Like I can interpret it and translate it into English words. And I'm like, and ever since then, I've been able to interpret what it means. And in addition to that, I'm more so connect to the Akashic records, connect to the library because there's tons of symbols there.
Yeah.
And so when just the other day I was asking, you know, I was in this space of, you know, the only thing that really defies all the laws in the universe are the elements, the earth elements, because they have no, they're not defined, they're not held captive by any other law that exists. I'm
Mhm.
like, it has to, and so I went through my book of symbols and I'm looking at these old archaic alchemic symbols. I'm like, these symbols don't resonate anymore. We have to have something new. And so I asked this question, what are these new symbols? What do the 5 elements look like now? And so I received this image of what the new alchemic symbol of the elements are. And I'm like, yes. And so sometimes that happens when I ask a question and I receive the information. And so that is part of what this ability has gifted to me, is being able to interpret and create more symbols to utilize to be of service to other people in numerous ways.
Okay. So one of the questions I do have for you is, what is your understanding about the connection of the Syrians with the land of Lemuria? Because I know that, like, here we know of the connection with the Pleiadians very strongly.
Yes, yes.
And so I would love to know about that connection with the Syrians.
So as I was shown and as I was taught, that the Lemurians are Syrian.
Okay.
That Lemurians were the first inhabitants before Atlantis, before anything else. They were the first civilization. And Lemuria was just more than the land of Hawaii. It
Okay.
was connected to the chains of the Philippines, connected to this. So it was like Lemuria was this massive landmass, not just these tiny little islands. It was this community of space. And so when you think of the energy of Sirius, it was almost like, well, not almost like, it is, or it still is, this space of experimentation, this space of education. And so as they have, as part of the, and I'm getting this as I just, I'm receiving this as I am speaking, because this is brand new, what I'm about to express to you, or at least brand new to me.
Okay.
And so there was an experimental process of the center of the galaxy, which is Sirius A, B, and C. And so people volunteered, to come to Earth because they discovered this planet and wanted to see if it was inhabitable. And so they discovered that it was. And so they asked for volunteers to come to this planet to create a civilization here. And they say, if we go, we can't be known as Syrians. We have to be known as the sister planet, the child planet, which is Lemurians. And in their language, this means child.
Okay.
This is okay.
So again, new to you, new to, I'm hearing this for the first time.
Because I have a greater understanding of the language now.
Okay.
And so the child that is Earth, we also call it a school, but it's also a school. It's also a child of Sirius. And since the first, they have always been in touch in different ways, especially the strongest connection to the Dogon tribe in Africa, which I am familiar with, which had the strongest connection to Sirius C, the smallest of the 3. And so it is in this space that lies here within us, in our DNA, in our strands, in our energy. So this is part of the space that is the remembrance that is occurring right now, not just within me, but within all of us, to remember, say, we are the children of the universe, and not just of Sirius, but they started the process. And so if we go back into the alien or galactic lineage, each piece is an existence of the other. So each, we, in this human form, the human spectrum, we represent a piece of each galactic race.
Yeah, that's what I teach. That's what I share. And so along these lines, I several months ago, I had a regression done for me. Normally, I do regression for people, but I got to fully experience my life as a Syrian coming to Earth. I was one of the genetic engineers upgrading the human body to hold more energy. And it was an experiment. And there were others of us that were on the ground teaching the people, but I liked being on my ship from
Yeah.
afar.
Yeah, I was definitely, I've definitely feel as I speak to you, you know, and this is what I love about connecting with other brothers and sisters of that time is that as I connect, there's more information that comes in. And I was definitely more on the ground. I was more so, I was like a scientist slash teacher, but I was like wanted to be like in it, you know, just like,
Yeah.
yeah. And artists. It's like I was I guess what you would call a renaissance man. I did a little bit of everything.
Well, and yeah, and what I got to see in this was that there were you're part of our group that were down there teaching the science, the astronomy, the medicine, the agriculture, all of that. We were up on the ship blasting the sound energy down to modify the DNA, but we had a different experiment going on in a different solar system where we were doing the same sound upgrading of the body, but there's no one there teaching them to see
Mm.
them alone. How are they going? What are they going to do? Is it better to teach them directly or not? But what I can say is, in this, being able to see this, the ones that we left alone and didn't teach, they had a much more like harmonious, community loving environment ongoing for much longer than we did here on Earth.
Yeah, because we tried to impose our thinking on
Yeah,
them instead of just allowing it to be, which is why
it's too much.
everything is so hands off now.
Yes.
And so, which is why there's an abundance, and I don't know if you felt this in recent years, the abundance of 40 hertz energy coming into the planet, which is the
Yeah.
frequency that we've all used. See, you're like my new best friend now, Lisa.
Oh, I love it. So okay, so you have this Syrian connection. Are there other galactic groups that you know for sure that you have lived lives, you like really fully connect?
Well, I know one for sure. Well, and to be frank with you, to be completely honest, we've all lived in each galactic uh, family. You know,
Yes.
Arcturian, Palladian, Lyran, you name it, we lived it.
Yeah.
But the one that I resonate the most with, aside from the Syrians, because that's the first and foremost, is the Arcturian family, and they were known for being the healers.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, yeah, they were the most peaceful and passive
Mhm.
of the galactic families because of their ability to nurture and to grow and to heal. And so this is why, you know, the mix of Syrian and Arcturian energies come through with me because when I do light language, some
Mhm.
people, especially my teacher, he's like, "Oh yeah, that looks like Syrian. Oh, that looks like the Arcturian." I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Well, and what I have come to understand, because I am an Arcturian, so, like
Mhm.
that's who I most connect with. That's who I channel.
Mhm.
The other ones are coming through this year. They've
Mhm.
already told me, okay, we're showing up, and but the Arcturians. So yes, the healing. So in my life as Arcturian, I'm a healer, but I not to heal because I don't need the healing. They send the energy down here to
Mhm.
us to
Mhm.
help heal. And so I get that channeled energy from me from in that Arcturian life to then heal myself, but then just spread that
Look at
energy
that, yeah.
out. And I use my Lemurian crystal to help harness that. And but then the Arcturian energy is more of that emotional healing,
Yeah.
which I like all the things that I chose to come into this human life to experience. I lived through a lot of emotional trauma that I have healed. So I've walked through it. And then the Syrian is more of that physical, from my understanding. So what is your experience with those pieces?
It's interesting because with me, because what I've been guided and called to do is to, I guess it's kind of like my own way of doing it. Uh, in the sense of where there is physical proponents. There's the, what you call emotional, and the reason why that word emotional kind of, and I guess I'm gonna say it, kind of triggers me a little bit, especially now in recent months, is because emotions are the memories of our experiences.
Hmm.
And so when we have the memories of these experiences, it kind of keeps us in this holding pattern of fear or regret or a lower frequency, as opposed to the energy of feeling. And so what I have come to understand is that with the Syrian and Arcturian energies, these two mostly, is that it's a fusion of the two,
Mhm.
because we have to allow for that feeling experience to arise within us, and then to clear that out, to allow that to be free, to transmute that, and
Yes.
then allow for the physical aspect, whatever it could be, whether for speaking, writing, whatever, to anchor in the new feeling energies to guide us on our path and purpose. And so I feel the two are very effective
Oh, yeah.
together, especially in a human form.
Yes, I completely agree. So I'm all about, yeah, the Arcturian series. So we're very on the same wavelength here. So how do you work with clients with this energy? Because I mean, I'm assuming you can work remotely since energy, we're
Yeah.
all connected. Yeah. So
I
how?
can work from anywhere on the planet. And what's interesting is, I'm one of two teachers actually on the planet right now, my teacher and myself, that are able and have been attuned to teach us Syrian and Lemurian energy.
Okay.
And so, with that being said, I do, and he's a little bit more aggressive than I.
Hmm.
He's like really, in there, as opposed to me. My style is more like a meditative journey, and that allows for the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems to come into harmony, to relax, and then allow for the energies to arise. Because when we're relaxed, we can allow ourselves to focus on what we need to focus on, and then allow for that space of trauma or shame or guilt or any other lower vibrating frequency to come up, for us to fully feel what needs to be felt. So that way I can do energetic surgery in that space, with the light language that I speak, with the tools at my disposal, whether it's crystals or any other Lemurian tools at my disposal, which I have to share with you later. But it's all virtual, it's all in person, and what I've come to find out, that it's all the same, no matter the environment.
Okay. So what kind of things do people come to you if they're your clients?
It's interesting. And so when I first started doing this, it was more so about people wanting to clear shame and guilt from their lives, and little bits of trauma. But as I moved into this and as I got more versed in this and more comfortable with this, I found that presently 80% of my clients are women who have
Okay.
been sexually abused.
Mm,
And so,
okay.
yeah,
High
and
percent.
yeah,
Yeah.
big shift. And even in that, I find that a lot of my clients are, who have experienced sexual abuse. And so whether if it's men and women, but there are men in the mix too. And it's interesting to feel this dynamic, because that's the heaviest energy that's being shifted on the planet right now, because not only does it hold physical trauma, it also holds energetic trauma, also
Mhm.
holds a lot of shame and guilt around this, because of how we act and how we feel with same and other sexes, in that space. So it just is a very dense energy. And so it gives me great pleasure to do this that I do, to see and witness the transformation of the people that I work with.
Okay. And how many sessions, if you can say, like, is there an average amount of sessions that it takes to help people clear that, or is one and done? Or
Oh
how does
no, it's never one and done. At one point it will be, but at this point, no.
okay.
And how I work is a minimum of 3 sessions. Reason why is because of I work with the inner child first to help establish that relationship of communication and clear out what needs to be cleared out. Because at that space we are in our self-development. We are understanding the world we live in. We are mimicking the actions of others. We are developing our own sense of self in
Okay.
our inner child. And then as we move to our adolescence, there's the space of self identity where
Mhm.
we're becoming to understand who we developed into. And so this is also a time where we can either lose our identity or gain our identity. And this is also a sensitive time in our life. And then as we move into the adult phase, this is where we carry all the residual energy from the past too into this one. So all the patterns, the beliefs, everything that we've created is being held in this space. And so I work to clear out each space to allow for the new thoughts, the new ideas, the new beliefs to take hold. And then uh, from those basic core foundational services, I also offer, specialty services such as soul retrieval and light body activation, and those help to really bring in and embody the fullness of your energy presence on the planet.
Okay. So, a couple questions that just
Yes.
came up. Number one, in terms of the inner child, adolescence, adult, like, does someone coming to you need to be an adult that's had a lot of baggage throughout their lives, or do you work? I mean, like, there are teenagers that have the
Yeah.
sexual trauma as well,
It's
and they're not quite adults. So, can you still work with them?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said it because I have worked with a teenager who has experienced a lot of trauma. And right now I have a client in the early 20s who has experienced a lot. And so it doesn't matter what we experience. Trauma is trauma. Pain is pain. Shame is shame. Guilt is guilt. It affects us all the same. It's just a matter in which we choose to move through it and to truly understand it. And so at me doing this for as long as I have, I all the patterns are the same no matter what. It's just how we choose to deal with them that makes them different.
Okay. So it's someone coming to you in their younger life, then um, I I could see how that would help them, like, have an easier kind of adulthood if
Oh
they're
yeah,
to, like, get out of so they're not creating horrible patterns throughout their entire lives,
yeah.
right?
It breaks the pattern and breaks the cycle of something that they've created for themselves. And what I help people to see, is to take responsibility, for their actions. Take responsibility for the things that they have seen, and not only just take responsibility, but also to understand. For example, I didn't expect to share this, but I have one of my clients who has been sexually abused, and I just want to take you on I'll be as quick as I can on this 2-minute journey.
Okay.
And so we are in one of the final stages of the energy work, and
Mhm.
we're ending the session. And I said to him, I said, I'm going to take you on this journey. Just imagine this. Now, I want everyone to imagine this. Whoever's watching this now in the infinite now is to just imagine that before we choose to incarnate on this planet, we are all sitting at this round table, assigning assignments to everyone to trigger each of us to remember who we are, to remember what our purpose is. Say, Mom, you're responsible for that. You're going to be my mother, and you're going to be responsible for this. You're going to be my best friend, you're going to be responsible for this. You're going to be my brother, you're going to be responsible for this, and so on.
Mhm.
And so, as you know, as we choose to incarnate in whatever order we choose to incarnate in, we all have our amnesia. We all forget.
Yeah.
However, as we move through life, we are motivated to do what drives us to do what we do. And just imagine, we're still at this round table, and it's like the person responsible for the abuse, the person responsible for the pain. It's like, I have to do what? It's like, I have to do what to help you remember? That's insane. I can't do that. I can't allow myself to bring myself to hurt you that way. So just imagine the pain that soul is in that moment when you give them, or when they choose to accept this assignment. And then when we're on the planet, they have no recollection
Right.
of taking on this responsibility. And so when they do this act, this horrific act, we all blame them because of societal norms, because of what society has taught us, that it's evil, it's wrong, we shouldn't do it. But then when we transition back into energy, we thank them. And so this is what I teach my clients. Like, you have to truly understand the process of what it is to be human and what it is to be a soul, and the responsibilities we have for both.
Yeah.
And when we reconcile on the other side, there's nothing but love. There's nothing but appreciation for that person awakening you, helping you to remember your purpose and your path here. Because every trauma, every trigger leads to our purpose, our path, and that fulfillment.
Yeah, that was so beautifully spoken and shared. And you know, I'm highly clairsentient, and I just had full so like chills all over my body as you were saying that, because yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I, like myself, I mentioned earlier that I've gone through so many really tough situations in my life that I have come out of. And over the last several years, I have been really practicing that forgiveness and appreciation for the people that were really, really challenging.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh
That.
no, I could definitely feel that. And one of the things that I learned from Neil Donald Walsh is, there's no, and you may disagree with this, but there's no true need for forgiveness when we understand. Because you have, in the story that Neil Donald told me, is that you have grandpa and his grandson at the dining room table. And the grandson, I forget, he reaches over the table to grab something, and he knocks over the glass of milk. And he says to his grandpa, "I'm so sorry, Grandpa, I didn't mean to knock that over." And he looked at his grandson and said, "There's nothing to apologize for. I understand. It was an accident. You didn't mean to do it. Because you're just a child and you're just learning how to navigate in this space. And with each action, you learn more. And so I understand. And so when we understand."
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot.
I know when we experience life, Lisa, when we experience life in this fullness, in this totality, there's nothing truly to understand. And I'm getting emotional because I'm thinking about my dad
Okay.
when I say this,
Yeah.
because I didn't meet my biological father till almost 8 years ago,
Okay.
till the passing of my mom.
Mm.
And one of the first things this man, my father, said to me was, "How can you be so forgiving? How can you be so nice to me after missing your whole life?" And I told him, I said, "Experience. I mean, I have nothing to be mad for. I have nothing to be upset for. You're here now." And I told him, I said, "When I turn 30, and if I didn't meet my father, I was done. I'm done looking for you." But I was lying to myself because I still wanted to know who he was.
Okay.
And so I had to forgive myself for, one, lying to myself, because I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to know him. And with the years of just practicing peace and patience and gratitude, and just in that space of understanding, it took a lot. But I mean, when you live in life and you just having experiences, and really truly in that feeling space, there's nothing honestly to forgive. It's only to understand and accept.
Yeah, beautiful. I think those words are going to help a lot of people listening and watching. So yeah, already got a few comments. That. Okay, so the next question that I had based on part of that whole, like how you work with people. So the extra stuff that you do, including the soul retrieval. So I would love to understand from your perspective what soul retrieval is and why someone would even need to do that.
So this is very important in how we interact with our multidimensional reality. And even when we dream at night or astral travel, this is very important because how I express to people is that our soul fragments, which are pieces of us, given freely or left somewhere, they often act like breadcrumbs.
Mm.
So when we travel at night, astral travel, we go places here or there, or when we meet other souls, whether if it's, mother, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, spouse, whatever, there's pieces of us left with these people. So which is why there's always this draw to them, even though the physical relationship is over, but the energetic piece still exists.
Hmm.
And so I express to people how this helps is that way you get your power back.
Okay.
Because as we often give of ourselves, we receive of other people. So in order to have the soul retrieval happen, we have to clear the energy of other people. We have to clear all the imprinted energy, thoughts, beliefs, etc. from our energetic system, from
Mm-hmm.
our aura, from our chakras, from every aspect of the energetic body. And once that is clear, we can then allow for the retrieval of the energy to come in after it has been cleansed. And it goes through a cleansing process that I go through with the client to bring them back to wholeness. Because once we, retrieve all the breadcrumbs, all the fragments, we then have a sense of wholeness, lightness, and become, detached, so to speak, from other things we wish to no longer be attached to.
Okay, so how is that similar or different than traditional cord cutting? That
Yeah, it's very different because cord cutting is literally you just severing that relationship, you're severing that bond, as
Mhm.
opposed to with the soul fragments, you are actually reclaiming aspects and parts of yourself. As
Okay.
with cord cutting, you're not doing that. You're just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
As opposed to the gentle ease of the integration or the reintegration of self.
Okay. That's a really good explanation of the difference because I know a lot of spiritual teachers out there teach just cut those cords and
No, because if you cut the cord, the chances are you're also leaving part of yourself too.
yeah. Well, and I've experienced cutting the cord and that person reattaching that cord to me over and over.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yes. Okay. So, okay, where do we want to go? What else would you like to share with us? Because there's so many questions. I mean,
I know there's like I'm loving this conversation and I know I'm going to have to come back, but
yes.
one of the things that has been on my mind is, one of the hot topics for me
Mhm.
is to really help people understand the full spectrum of humanity, to really understand who we are and what we do. As and when I say humanity, HUEMAN, human, the full spectrum.
Okay.
And it's in that space where we get to truly step into the integration and connection to the incarnations of the soul lineage, as I like to call it. And so I'm understanding this on the broader spectrum because we have straight people, we have gay people, black, white, etc., etc. The basic physical aspects of the human spectrum, but it goes much higher than that. The human spectrum is a space where we can really dissolve the outward appearances, even though it's fun to play dress up.
Right.
It's like, how do I want to look today? What am I going to be today? And so as we move into the space of really understanding the human and how we can embody the full spectrum of energies, the life in itself, everything from the different hertzes, the frequencies, the light language, and how we begin to embody this for our own growth and expansion of the human race, the collective consciousness, if you will. Because there's this, uh, we call it the Akashic Records, we call it the Hall of Knowledge, but it's this plethora of knowledge that has yet to have been accessed. And so part of what I'm doing presently is accessing this energy, this wisdom to bring forth, so that way when the time is right, we then have this space of the human knowledge to say, okay, well, what exactly is a human? It is one who embodies or embraces what my shaman has called is the two-spirited being. Essentially, we are all two-spirited. It's just that some of us embrace it more than others.
Yeah.
It's also not just embracing the two-spiritedness, it's also really understanding beyond the sexual identity or the physical appearance. It's also really resonating with, what is the human now? Is it the five fingers, or is it the four toes, or is it the two heads, or is it the one eye? What does the new human look like? And it's on the energetic level that we allow ourselves to really resonate from the inside, to be fully embracing the frequency of the human, because this is why we have, let me rephrase it, this is why Syrian and Lemurians had these experiments to really understand what the human genome, what the DNA, what the cells do, and how can we, that's a long word, how can we evolve that space. And so now we are in the space of evolution, of really stepping forth in that, even though it may not be recognized, but the evolution is so minute that there's only a small percentage of us that is feeling of this, you included, that's feeling this level of expansion and how we choose to grow and allow for the new human to be expressed. And it is in that frequency that the love and the home and all these things will come into existence. So this is still a new energy and topic that I am expanding with.
Okay, so are you teaching classes in this? Are you talking? I know you also have a show. If you want to
Yeah.
promote that and tell us, how people can learn more about this.
So it's so funny. So if anyone goes to my personal YouTube channel, and you can find that at taplink.cc/Hillis Pugh. You guys can find it there. Under my section with interviews, I did a channel talk about this on the something convergence show. It was an hour long talk, and I go more into that because it was definitely more channeled in that. And you guys can learn more about that there. But you guys can always tune in to Cosmic Insight every Friday night, live, 6 p.m. Eastern, for a show that's full of fun and laughter and insightful conversations like this one. Well, it's my co-host Rebecca Gregory now, where we just have fun and have these very insightful conversations.
Okay, and then so people can find you, like, to work with you on that website link too, and I'll have that in the show.
The taplink.cc/Hillis Pugh. There you can find all things about me, learn about my work, and learn to read any testimonials. I mean, what I do is just fun, and honestly, I love writing. I love working with clients. You guys can even find some of my poetry on my social media. I love doing what I do. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here right
Yep, true story. Well, for those who do you ever see clients in person? So you're in Florida. Where in Florida are you?
I am in Cape Coral near Fort Myers, and so there's a space I do work out of in Fort Myers, Florida. And that information is on the tap link as well. So if people want to see me, I do in-person events here. I also do virtual events. Honestly, since the pandemic, there's nothing that I haven't done yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the pandemic for some people like really destroyed their world, and for others it really helped. And like for me, I moved here to Hawaii in the middle of the pandemic because I was able to. So, it freed up my obligations.
Yeah.
My perceived obligations.
Yeah, I like that. And so, honestly, and what I have learned in this process of doing the work that I do, that there's nothing that I haven't been able to do yet in this field of work.
Okay.
I'm just growing and expanding because I also have other teachers that I work with who are teaching me more about the human body than I can ever perceive. And so it is in that space that I'm just allowing myself to be a student as well as a teacher as well as a master, because I'm all three at the same time at all times.
Yes. Well, and that same here. I am always learning, evolving, growing, because if we're not growing, we're dying.
Exactly.
So, are there any other things that you see coming up in the energy of Earth or of your world that you want to share about, or and if not, that's okay too. But is there anything new that's unfolding for you, or anything just
It's interesting because a few weeks ago, and I've always been opposed to this term because I felt like I haven't earned it. And there have been, 3 people in 2 weeks that have called me a shaman.
Okay.
And I'm like, no, I'm not a shaman. I don't resonate with that. And they're like, Hillis, you do this, 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 and this. How come you don't feel like you're a shaman? Because it's something that has to be earned. It's something that is, held, and I hold it dear to my heart because of the shamans that I worked with doing plant medicine. And that's a title that's revered. It's a title that's honored. You just don't, become or call yourself a shaman overnight. And I feel that I'm, one step closer walking the path that I'm walking on is to be that. And, a shaman is one who is of great service. And being that it is I've always felt it's been my job, one of my purposes is to be of great service to the world. How it's done, how it's seen, it's totally up to my soul, to my guides, to my team, and how it's delivered. But it is how this world is evolving right now. This world right now is going through a lot of chaos, but it's always easy to create chaos. It's always easy to destroy what's been created. But when you create something from the heart, from the genuine heart space, it's a lot harder to tear down. And so right now on the planet, we are in the midst of creating with the pure heart, with the intentions of the pure heart that is there. So that way, the next cycle of 26,000 years, that it will withstand this test of time, this test of energy. So I am here to create, to build a world with the pure heart. And those who are willing to transform their lives to be a part of that, to let go of what no longer serves them and be in the place of resonance of frequency that loves them just as they love it, to create and to love and to expand and to have all this joy, to feel nothing but joy in every day. Because yeah, we're still in pain, we're still suffering, but on the other side of that is unconditional love.
Yeah, beautiful. That's a beautiful way to end. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope everyone watching and listening really takes to heart what you said and reaches out to you. And I just thank you. My
Thank
soul
you.
forever.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to be back.
Yes. Yes. Well, definitely going to have you on again. So thank you for those watching and listening, and I'll see you next time. Aloha.